Good morning once again. I think there is this group, the business group. I think it is DBMA, and DBMA. The HOD is actually working very hard to ensure that they join this particular class. But we are not going to wait on that. The only thing that is remaining is that they will come and listen to the recording. If we'll find that, okay, the class is almost over. So therefore, I want to start this class, and this is our second lesson. There are those people who missed the first lesson. The first lesson, we were looking at the basic definitions of public relations. After looking at definitions of public relations, we actually looked at three main definitions. Although there are so many scholars who have defined public relations differently, we only looked at three main scholars or three main definitions. We looked at the Mexican statement. We looked at definitions by Frank Jeffkins and Daniel Yardin, and we looked at the definitions by the British Institute of Public Relations. And if my memory serves me right, those who are here, we looked at the Mexican statement, and we said that public relations is the art and social science of analyzing trends, predicting their consequences, and coming up with a planned program of action that will benefit both the organization and its publics. That is how we defined public relations. And that one, the definition by the what we call the public, the British Institute of Public Relations, we said that public relations is the planned and is a communication discipline. Of course, it's a communication discipline. So we said it is a planned and sustained effort of establishing what we call mutual understanding and goodwill between the publics and the organization. And we said when you're talking about the publics are those groups that relate with an organization, either directly or indirectly. Those groups of people that interact with an organization, either directly or indirectly, are referred to as publics. And we said that they are, according to Frank Jeffkins, I think it is in chapter 7 of Frank Jeffkins' book. I'm not so sure, but chapter 7 of his book, he talks about, or he defines and classifies publics into various categories. Actually, he classifies them generally into two, internal or external publics. So internal publics are those that interact with the organization internally. For example, employees. For example, a director. For example, people working in the organization, different categories, these are internal publics. We also have external publics, for example, the community, the media, special employees. We also have the suppliers, we have a trade union, the government, distributors. All those are what we call the external publics. Remember, they are called publics of public relations. So sometimes you might be asked in an exam, explain the role of 7 publics of public relations. So you will not start by telling us things to do with the public. You know, we have the public outside, the people outside. We are not talking about that. Like the way politicians say, the members of the public. No, it's not like that. When in public relations, when you talk about publics, we are talking about groups of people that interact with an organization, either directly or indirectly. We have classified them as media. Media is one of them. Community is another one. We also have trade union is another one. We also have distributors, consumers, dealers, potential employees, so on and so forth. Then I told some people, those people who attended the class, to read on the images, public relations images, whereby we have the mirror image, we have the multiple image, we have the wish image, we have all those. And then I told you to read on public relations department and consultancy. And we said when you're talking about consultancies, these are services, public relations services that you outsource outside the organization. If a PR, if an organization doesn't have a PR department, it outsources what we call these services. It outsources them from a consultancy. Sometimes even an organization can have a PR department, but its PR department, there are some things it cannot do. Like when you go to University of Nairobi, I gave you an example. We said University of Nairobi depends so much on a consultancy known as Gina Dean. Gina Dean is a PR consultancy that does their publication. If they have a graduation and they want their booklets to be published, they use Gina Dean. So we have so many public relations consultancy. So whenever you see that your PR department is limited in doing some things, then you seek a consultancy that can do it for you. It does not necessarily mean that you seek consultancy simply because you don't have a PR department. You can have an internal PR department, but because it is limited to doing some things, then you seek for other services outside. When you seek for other services outside, then you are seeking for consultancy. But if you are fully fledged simply means you can depend, you don't depend on anyone as far as PR services are concerned, then you don't need a consultancy. And it is very difficult to find a fully fledged public relations department. Very difficult. I don't even think that it exists, because you'll find in one way or another that there are some things that your PR department cannot do. So using what we call a PR department or using a consultancy, there are some disadvantages and advantages. Like when you use a PR consultancy, you are likely to find more experienced personnel because they have dealt with so many issues. So you are likely to find more experienced personnel. The disadvantage, number one, can be these people might take time because they want to learn the issue, to learn the organization, to learn everything before they deal with an issue. So in other words, we are saying you use a consultancy, there are some advantages, there are also some disadvantages. Like we have said, when you involve a consultancy in your organization, it will take them time in dealing with an issue. Why? Because first of all, they'll have to learn the organization, their mission, their vision, what exactly do they need, and so on and so forth. So before an issue is solved, it will take time. Unlike when you are dealing with an internal PR department that understands the organization very well. So if you give them an issue, they will do it very fast because they understand the organization very well, and so on and so forth. So there are some disadvantages and advantages of using both the PR department and also the consultancy. All these are in the notes. Those who are not here, you can listen to a recording that I did here, last week. And also, you can download the notes and we can call it a day. For attendance, I'm not going to pick your attendance because you missed the class. And the moment you miss a class, then you are ticked absent. So I want us to start a topic today. This topic is known as issues and crisis management. From my topic, you can say it is topic 6, but from your course outline, it is topic 1. So we are following the course outline, not my notes. So the course outline reads topic 2. It is topic 2, not topic 1. So the intended learning outcome, we are going to define an issue. We're also going to look at types of issues. We are also going to look at stages of issues management. And then we are going to define a crisis. And then we are going to look at the issues life cycle. And then crisis communication, what it is, and then crisis communication plan and the media during a crisis. What is the role of a media during a crisis? Then from there, we are going to look at crisis public relations strategy. I'm going to go very fast. If you have a question, I'll give you a chance to ask, and then we'll call it a day. There are some activities aligned for you at the end of this particular lesson, and those activities will always be there until we are done with the semester. So those activities, take them seriously, because if you don't do it, there is a detrimental issue. Wewe utakuwa na shida kubwa sana. All our activities, I'm telling you this so that you know, all the activities that you're going to do them on the portal are linked to the attendance register. So if you don't do it, the attendance register will mark you absent. You have to do all the activities, the discussion forum, and the quiz. Today, you're going to do a quiz and a discussion forum. If you don't do it, attendance marks itself absent. Don't come saying, Mr. David, you have marked me absent and I was present. So the class attendance, the activities have been checked on, or the class attendance has been checked on the activities. My friend, una option. Itabidi umefanya hizo activities zote, class attendance ijichukue automatically. Our attendance is automatic. Somebody is saying he can't hear anything. Let's confirm whether your gadget is the one that has a problem. Osoro Okeri, can you hear me? Osoro,
Yes,
can
yes,
you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Clearly, yeah?
Yeah, now I'm hearing.
Malesi, can you hear me? Malesi,
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Clearly, yeah? You hear me
Yes.
clearly, or just there is a problem with my voice?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
So my friend, you're saying you can't hear me. Just work on your gadget. I can even confirm from somebody else, and I'm picking them at random. Mutuma Shalin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My friend, the person who is this? Wanjiro, that is DHM 010521. The problem is on your end. We cannot have 3 people, 4 people saying that they can hear me, and only you can't hear me. Just kindly work on your gadget so that you can get me clearly and well. Therefore, let's look at an issue. What is an issue? There are some scholars who have defined issues, but this scholar is called Heath, 1997, and he defines an issue as a commercial reputation risk that has the potential to escalate into a crisis if not solved. Sisi wote najua sisi wote ni Waswahili. Umesikia msemo unasemwa, usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. Have you ever heard that, Malesi? Usipojenga ufa utajenga ukuta. But if you don't work on the crack, you will build the whole wall. don't work on the crack. If you see a crack somewhere, kindly fix that crack, because you will work on the whole wall. The crack will, we will do what? We'll graduate to something that now you need to take time to build. So therefore, we can say that a crisis, according to Heath, is strategic, commercial, reputation risk that have the potential to escalate into a crisis if it is not solved. That is it. We have so many issues in our organization. Let me give an example. The issue might be payment. Maybe your employees are telling you that increase our pay. I've been earning this pay for the past 10 years, 15 years. Our pay is so little. There is what we call financial difficulties, economic difficulties. Price of unga is going up. We used to buy it at 90 shillings. It is now ×2. Our pay rise is still the same since 20 or 15 years ago. That is an issue. And you, as the management of an organization, you just tell them, we will look into it, we will look into it. Then one day, you will be very shocked to find that these people have gone on strike. I will call it a crisis because it is going to tarnish the organization's image. Imagine a company, a very big company, a renowned company, a well-established company. You see people walking in the street saying that they want their haki yao. Assume a company like Absa Bank. This is just an example. You see their employees on the street carrying placards, demonstrating, carrying effigies, saying that we want pay rise. How will it be like? Actually, it means their image will be tarnished. The same case with what we call fire. If an organization, well-established organization, good and a strong organization economically, is not able to fight fire, to deal with fire crisis, fire issues, and those fire issues may lead to what we call a crisis. And it may bring down the company just like that. So if you are not able to solve a crisis, an issue, then you will do what? You will find yourself in a crisis. As a student, for example, if you don't plan yourself on reading the notes and taking your education seriously, you procrastinate things. We have just done one topic. These are just 2 topics. These are just 3 topics. These are just 4 topics. We're in topic 7 now. These are just 7 topics. I will read them. Then during the exam, you realize 20 topics you're supposed to read. That one, actually, you are headed or you are in a crisis. You can't read, you cannot understand. So before you notice, after you sit for your exam, you find that you're failing because of that. Again, we can define an issue as an issue is a point of conflict between 2 or more people. You cannot get that definition by Heath, then we can say an issue is a point of conflict between 2 or more people. It's a point of conflict. It's something that can bring a conflict between 2 or more people. We have various types of issues. Number 1, we have external issues. They are not specific to an organization. External issues are not specific to an organization. There may be policy or political changes that affect an organization. These may be political changes or policy changes. Every organization has got its own policy. If you change your policy, there is what we call political changes. They are called external issues. They may affect an organization. Like just the other day, the government said that it's going to do what? Ensure that when you deposit, not depositing, when you transfer your funds from M-Pesa to bank, you're going to be charged. Is it going to affect the organization, an individual? Yes, it is going to affect the organization. So those are external issues. The internal policy developed by an organization must be tandem with the external policy. It must go hand in hand. When you come up with a policy as an organization, it must go hand in hand with the external policy. Like if you're starting a business, you must have what we call letter of permit, and there are some things that you must achieve for you to start a business, and therefore your internal policies and external policies must go hand in hand. Organization must change or adapt towards new policy changes. And we go to the next one. The next one is internal issues. It is related to performance of an organization. They arise from positive or negative development that an organization is in. Example, corruption is an internal issue. In so many organizations, you find that there are people who are corrupt, want maybe some services from a specific organization. You meet an individual who tells you, give me 200, I will bring it right now. I will make sure that I do it for you. That's an internal issue. Product failure. The product fails. Yesterday I was teaching a class. This was a sub-editing class. I told them that there is these people called the coffee testers and wine testers. In some organization, wine manufacturing industry, they employ what we call wine testers. They employ what we call coffee testers. You go to Dormant Coffee or you go to Coffee Nescafe, you'll find that they have employed what we call a coffee tester. What is his purpose? His purpose is to test the coffee, to find out whether it is up to the standard that is required. So sometimes, I don't know that you have bought a soda somewhere. You are wondering, the taste is very awful. I once bought a soda, and when it was not tasting, the taste was not, it was so much distorted to an extent that I had to look at the expiry date. And the date were okay. The drink was tasting awful. Now, that's what we can call it product failure. If a product fails, then that is an internal issue. We also have massive layoffs. We find in some of our organizations here in Kenya, massive layoffs. You find that people have been laid off. So many, 230 people are going home. Those are internal issues that can be solved internally. So stages of issues management, number one is horizon scanning. How do you manage, or these are stages of issues management. Is what we call horizon scanning. And when you're doing horizon scanning, we are saying, what are the potential issues that an organization could deal with? Example, something like fire, the potential issue. That's why you find many organizations, we have what we call firefighting equipment positioned at strategic points. In case of fire, be able to access that fire extinguisher, you'll be able to access that blanket, you'll be able to access that sand. What is the impact? So you're supposed to analyze the risk of potential issues and monitor so that it does not escalate. Example, the social environment is public opinion reputation. Reputation that you have towards the public. If you have a very good reputation, So you need to look into that. Also economic, political, regulatory, and competitive. And after doing horizon scanning to identification, you classify the key issues into groups according to Heath 1997. He argued that monitoring should occur only after issues meet 3 criteria. Monitoring should occur only if after the issue meets the criteria. Number one is pay attention to those who have the potential of gaining out of public interest. Number two is what? Number two, we are told outline those that offers quantifiable threat or opportunity in terms of organizations, market operation, and Roman 3 is championed by group or institution with actual potential influence. Number 3 is prioritization. To prioritize is you put something, those issues that are very sensitive first, and those that are not, that are less sensitive, you deal with them last. So the next one is you do what we call strategy and implementation. To implement strategy, then lastly you check whether everything is working. And when you check whether everything is working, we evaluate. The steps involved in evaluating the success or issues management initiatives will vary as much as issues themselves. For example, issues something to do with payment or pay rise, an issue. Something to do with fire outbreak is an issue. So that's why we are saying that the steps that are involved in evaluating the success of something, it will vary depending on the issue. So you cannot evaluate everything. You cannot evaluate the issues to do with fire, but you'd evaluate an issue to do with strike rise. We go to something else called a crisis. A crisis in Chinese language, the word crisis is composed of 2 characters. It is danger and opportunity. That's why you find that whenever there is a crisis, there are those people who are taking it as an opportunity. Danger and opportunity. It is a significant threat to operations that can have negative consequences if they are not handled. If you're not able to handle this significant operation, then okay, we are saying that it is a significant threat to operations that can have negative consequences if not handled properly. That is according to Combs, 1999. And we also have another definition by Fan Banks, 1996. It's a major occurrence with a potentially negative outcome. It's a major occurrence with a potentially negative outcome affecting the organization as well as its public services, products, or goods. And now that we know the definition of a crisis, let's look at types of crisis. And please, when you're looking at types of crisis, don't confuse types of crisis with types of issues. Remember, issues, we have said we have internal issues, we have got external issues. And in types of crisis, we have 5 types of crisis. For example, number 1, we have financial crisis. A financial crisis, it occurs when a business loses value of its asset and the company cannot afford to pay off its debts. Sorry for that. I don't know why this Zoom has decided to log me out. I'm still wondering what happened. Let's continue. We are saying types of crisis, and one of them is what we call financial crisis. And it occurs when a business loses value in its asset, and the company cannot afford to pay off its debt. For example, the KEMSA debt crisis, where they could not pay suppliers, and it was 6 billion shilling. It was not able to pay suppliers because already business, it's what we call its assets lost value. Ajua assets was in a lose value. For example, a car. You bought a car at 2 million. In the next 5 years, the car, you cannot sell it at 2 million. Therefore, it means that you cannot be able to pay your debt, and so on and so forth. We also have personnel crisis, and they occur when the employee or individual who associates with the company is involved in an ethical or illegal misconduct. Like, for example, corruption. If your employee is involved in corruption, then that one we call it personnel crisis, or is involved in what we call it, an activity that is not ethical. Like, for example, smuggling of drugs. For example, smuggling of weapons, abduction, or rape. And that one we call it personnel crisis. Then there is what we call organizational crisis, number 3. And these are situations where the company has significantly wronged its consumers or employees. For example, the health worker strike due to lack of proper COVID-19 equipment due to misappropriation of funds. We saw people going on strike because they did not have what we call proper COVID-19 equipment to deal with this COVID-19. So that one is organizational crisis, among many other. We can have so many examples on that. You also have technological crisis. Technological crisis occurs when the technology fails you. In today's technology-driven age, business heavily relies on technology to perform day-to-day functions. For example, right now, we are relying on technology to what? Conduct this class. There was another day that WhatsApp was not working. I don't know if you remember that time. You send a message and it was not going through. You know how many millions were lost? Billions, I don't know. Let me ask you. Karaoke, habari yako? So there was a time last year, at the end of last year, WhatsApp was not working. Stayed there for almost 3 hours. This one we can call them technological crisis. We have even, for example, in March 2021, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook messengers, they went down at least an hour for thousands of users. That one I can guarantee you, you can check from the Google. In March 2021, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger, they went down for at least 1 hour, because you find that people rely so much on this technology to do business. Some of them, this is their this is where they get their ends meet. Then there is what we call natural crisis. Natural crises, these are unexpected and controlled natural disasters. For example, COVID-19, this was a natural crisis. For example, hunger crisis. In the northeastern, there is what we call drought, lack of rains. Animals are dying. Food relief is being directed towards those areas. Those are called what we call natural crises. When Kenya declared in COVID, when you talk about COVID-19, the hunger crisis in 2021, when Kenya declared a natural disaster owing to drought in arid and semi-arid countries, that was in year 2021. We also have what we call the issues life cycle. Issues life cycle, I'm enlarging it so that you can see it. From the issues life cycle, you can see the potential stage. Potential stage is whereby you look at something and you realize that this thing can become a crisis. Like, for example, maybe you have just started a company and you realize you don't have fire extinguisher. That's at that point, we can call it a potential stage. And then there is what we call emerging stage. Sometimes in an exam, you might be told to explain or to illustrate. When you're told to illustrate, you are simply being told draw by use of a diagram. Explain the issue's life cycle. So you must be in a position to draw that particular diagram because it is intensity against time. You can see here, it is intensity against time. And there is emerging stage, there is spread stage, there is a crisis stage. And when you talk about crisis stage, we are talking about what is what we call unconditional acceptance. That is where you now accept that there is a crisis. When COVID-19 came, strike so many countries, realized that we had to accept that it is here with us. So this is what we call unconditional acceptance. Then from there we can explain those stages just like they have been illustrated in that particular diagram. And the potential stage, we are saying that this consists of a recognized phenomenon that could develop into a problem. Just like I said, you look at something and you say this one can become a crisis. So it involves horizon scanning and identifying risks and risk assessment. So at this stage, an issue has not gained public attention and some stakeholders may be aware of them. Then there is what we call the emerging stage. And at this stage, most of the stakeholders are aware of the issue and what it could attract. Also it could attract what we call media coverage. Then there is the current stage. And at this stage, the crisis has matured. The crisis is displaying its full potential. It is displaying its full impact upon the organization. Then we also have the crisis stage. The issue finally reaches a formal institution that has authority to impose formal constraints in an attempt to solve it. And then there is what we call the dormant stage. The dormant stage is when an issue runs its full course. It reaches what we call the dormant stage. And the organization now focuses on recovery and rebuilding trust and reputation with its public. Yani crisis imefika pale juu. And then at this particular point, dormant stage, organization starts focusing on recovering, rebuilding trust and reputation with its public. Then we also have, is there any question up to that point? Any point that is not understood? Anything that you'd want to ask concerning crisis and issues management? Is there any question? So then what is crisis communication? Crisis communication is a form of strategic communication that can lessen the negative effect of a crisis of an organization and its stakeholders. It's a form of strategic communication. And this form of strategic communication is done so that at least we can do what? We can reduce the effect of crisis occurring. Communication is very important. I know you did communication in your year 1.1 or year 1 semester 1, and communication is very important. Whenever you come up across a potential crisis and you communicate it to the relevant authorities within the organization, then you are telling them, work on this issue. Otherwise, if you don't, it will become a crisis. So it is a strategic communication. Strategic simply means it is a communication targeted at something. to lessen the negative effect of a crisis on an organization and its stakeholders. So there's what we call stages of crisis communication. Number one is pre-crisis. A pre-crisis, anything that is pre, is something that has not yet occurred. Like when you talk about the wedding or pre-audit. Pre-crisis communication revolves around collecting information about a crisis, risk, making decisions about how to manage potential crises, and training people who will be involved in what? Crisis management process. For example, there is what we call, there was one day we were trained about in case of fire, what are we supposed to do? So all the staffs were called, it was a training. And when we were called, we were trained that assuming this is fire, it's coming from this end. What are you supposed to do? Do not use the lift, use the stairs. So all of us were going down the stairs. We were not using the lift. And all of us assembled at a fire assembly point. And now all the things started taking place, like taking the attendants, those who have been rescued from the fire or from a building that that is experiencing fire and so on and so forth. And then apart from pre-crisis, you are preparing yourself that in case of fire, this is what we are going to do. This is what we are going to do. So that when fire comes, in case it comes or it breaks out, then exactly what you are trained is what you are going to do. After doing pre-crisis, of course, it is a training. A pre-crisis is a training. Then there is this, now the actual thing called crisis. So crisis communication include collecting and processing of information for crisis team, decision making, along with creation of and dissemination of crisis message to people outside of the team. Then there is post-crisis. So kuna ya kwanza, crisis. Crisis, you are preparing yourself in case of a crisis. Number two, what comes next is crisis. Lastly is post-crisis. Crisis has already occurred. Now what do we do? The crisis was fire. Fire has already burnt the whole company. It is down. Now what are we supposed to do after that? After that is what we call post-crisis. It involves disseminating the crisis management effort, communicating the necessary changes to individuals, providing follow-ups, crisis messages as needed. For example, maybe there was somebody during the fire crisis, you were not able to do what? Maybe he was absent or she was absent. From the recorded register, after you register of those people who met in the fire assembly point, and so's name was not there, you start following up. Where is he? Where is she? I mean, was he or she on an academic leave or sick leave? Because that might be the reason. Or was he in the building? So the organization needs to release information or updates on recovery process, corrective actions, or investigation of a crisis. For example, there was this time in Kenya whereby we had this building being attacked by Al-Shabaab, where the cooperative bank is. And apart from that, we also had what we call the Dusit 2 terrorist attack in Riverside. Yeah? And you find that there were people who were called to rescue those people, maybe who are in the building and so on and so forth. And they give a report. They usually give a report, how many terrorist attackers were there, how many people died, how many people were killed, how many people are in the building, they have not been able, I mean, something of the sort. They give reports on that. So that one happens after a crisis has occurred. Then I want you to read on crisis communication plan and how to develop a crisis communication plan. I want you to read on that. And then I can look at all these is yours. Scenarios. I want us to look at scenarios where crisis has occurred. Scenario number 1, we have terrorist attack. We have implemented our crisis response plan, which places the highest priority on the health and safety of our guests and staff. This is in Kenya. You find that before you go to a hotel, a big hotel, like Silver Spring, or maybe, for example, the Sarova Stanley Hotel, you find that we have implemented our crisis response plan, which places highest priority on health, on safety of our guests, those who come to visit Kenya. Scenario number 2 is data breach. Like right now, we have so many people. Data breach exists, existing privacy, security, safety procedures are being reviewed to ensure interests of our affected stakeholders. So those are the priorities. And then we also have undetermined technology flow. There are so many what we call scenarios. Also, those scenarios read for yourself. Now, I want us to look at media during a crisis. I know there are people who are doing DCMS, that is Diploma in Communication and Media Studies. I want you to understand something about the media. What is good news or what is bad? So we say this way, bad news is good news to the media. Bad news is good news to the media. If something good happen, not see media there. If something bad happen, like a crisis, a terrorist attack, media will be there. Therefore, if the media will be there, my friend, never chase the media away. Never chase them away. You see the media is there, the media team is there. If you see the media team is there, never chase them away. Instead, what you're supposed to do, welcome them and give them a briefing. Have a one-on-one talk with them during the crisis. Because if you chase them away, these people will look for that information, what occurred, from people who are not relevant, from the community around, or from other people. And they may write news stories that are not favorable to you. So it is the best thing that you can do is when you see the media personnel there, the reporters are there, the what we call the press is there. What you're supposed to do is direct them to the right office. And again, when a crisis occurs, if you have the employees around, you are supposed to train them. And that's why we do post-crisis. Post-crisis what? We have called it post-crisis stage. That's why you're supposed to do the training. If the media personnel come here, we should not have employees talking to them. They should be directed to the right office, maybe public relations office, and they should be spoken to a public relations officer. Kwa sababu utapata ya kwamba kwa kampuni na wale wanapendanga tu kupopoka. Kishaona media, naenda na simama mbele ya media, ulizwa kumefanyika nini, person start giving relevant information that has got no direction, information that is false, information according to his own thinking. Because some people will say, tunaona kama ni stima ilisababisha, which might not be the cause. So instead of doing that and causing or miscommunicating, during the post-crisis stage, this training should be done. There are those people who should be in control in case of a crisis. Elected people, appointed people, Don't allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry be interviewed by the media. Direct the media team to the right office, to the right person. So that in case of anything, the company will have one responsible person who said whatever he said to the media. Instead of having 100 people or 5 people saying different things, it's going to be very difficult, even for the media, to come up with right information. So media relations are important during times of organizational crisis, and the media becomes more important due to the potential damage of negative mass media coverage. So the seriousness of a crisis is determined by the mass media's reaction to the crisis. So during a crisis, the public relations practitioner is under enormous pressure to communicate with the media and the public. So it is the public relations personnel who should communicate to the media. So whatever you tell the media is what it is going to display. If you chase the media away, it will look for ways of getting information, which might not be favorable to your organization. That's why I'm saying never chase the media personnel away, like some of our organization does. It is also at this time that communication is more difficult. Why? Because the media may learn about the crisis before you and may be adversarial. So they see the spokesman as the spin master and they want to assign blame. So the spokesperson is only speaking what is happening. He is not the one that has caused the crisis. For example, in our families, you find that we usually have a family spokesperson, especially these big families from this political field. They have family spokesperson that if the family wants to speak, they will speak and they will tell the spokesperson what to say, especially during a crisis. However, effective use of mass media has numerous benefits. Number one, including the opportunity of the organization to act in a proactive rather than reactive manner. The media gives you coverage. So from this point, when the media is interviewing you, a crisis has already occurred, you can tell them now the truth of what happened. And that way you'll be acting proactively rather than in a reactive way. But if you had chased away the media, hautakuwa na hiyo opportunity ya kuji-explain what happened. Number two, there is a great chance of control of the message. Of course, there is what we call a propaganda. Propaganda is information that has no direction. This one we looked at it last week. So it gives you a chance to control the message and the ability to correct misinformation and to retain control of the situation. The media gives you the opportunity to retain the control of the situation. So elements of crisis public relations. Number one, there is what we call comprehension of the issue. Then there is identification of all the publics involved and affected by the crisis. Remember when you talked about publics, we said publics are a group of people directly or indirectly associated with the organization. So when you talk about identification of all the publics involved and affected by a crisis, is that when a crisis occurs, it affects groups of people. Assume this crisis is fire. It will affect the community because the communities assume that it has occurred in a university. The community is the one that has brought its children to study in that university. So it will affect the community. It will affect the stakeholders. It will affect even the suppliers in one way or the other, because the suppliers will not be able to supply you with materials. It will affect the media. It will affect so many people. So one of the elements of public relations strategy is identification of all the publics involved and affected by the crisis. Number two, the medium of communication. You need to know the medium that you're supposed to use when you're communicating to your what? To the stakeholders that have been affected. For example, if there is a fire crisis, the way you communicate to the media is totally different to the way you will communicate to the stakeholders. It's totally different to the way you communicate to your customers. It's totally different from the way you are going to communicate to your community. And number 3, that is what we call post-crisis activity. Any question up to that point? Because I am finishing by saying that crisis can significantly alter the reputation. That is very true. I started by saying that when employees goes on strike, they alter the reputation of the organization. And maybe the image of the organization. Remember last time I told you to read about image of public relations. The current image of the organization is very positive in the eyes of the public. And now a fire has arisen or has this fire outbreak. It has burnt the company down to ashes. Then that crisis will significantly alter your reputation, because maybe you had your reputation, your financial status, your perception held by significant publics of the organization. So having a crisis public relations strategy in place will play a vital role in ensuring that the organization maintains control of the message and mitigate the effect of crisis and negative publicity. Sometimes we have negative publicity and positive publicity. Somebody might ask you, what is the difference between negative publicity and positive publicity? What is publicity in the first place? I told you last week that publicity is making known information known to the public. For example, think of a musician. A musician caught at the airport trying to smuggle drugs. A musician that is renowned, a musician that is well known, that is negative publicity. But when a musician is found in a children's home trying to feed them and trying to give them clothing, that is positive publicity. So publicity is information that is unknown, and it is released to the public. Unknown information made known to the public is what we call publicity. So we have positive publicity and negative publicity. Any question? Kuna swali? Because I've finished my class.
No.
If no question, so I will release those notes for you to read. So, and I'm also going to release the recording maybe tomorrow or later today for those people who have joined us late. Another thing is that I can see we are 40 students. Another thing is that I'm going, let me repeat what I said. Attendance registers is going to be marked automatically, and it will be marked automatically after you have done the activities that have been aligned there for you. And we're going to do the activities in this order because people who would rather do quiz, then go to the discussion forum. Now, the activities are going to be done in this order. Your attendance to be marked automatically by the system. Number one, you need first of all to do the discussion forum. Do the discussion forum before you go to quiz. There is no way you can start the quiz and then go back to the discussion forum. So you will start with the discussion forum, and then after doing the discussion forum, you will go to the quiz. Once you do that, just be rest assured that your register has been marked. If you don't do it, then it means that your register will not be marked. If you start with the quiz, say for example, it means that it will not open. So do not start with the quiz 2, start with the discussion forum first. Once you finish the discussion forum, then move to the quiz. Once you submit your quiz, then rest assured that your attendance has been taken automatically. That's how it is. Any question? Any question? Another thing that I want to communicate here is that those who were in class last week, I created a class link, a WhatsApp link. This WhatsApp link is for the purpose of this class. It's for the purpose of this class. So this WhatsApp link is for the purpose of this class. In case there is anything that I need to communicate to all of us, and I will be using this particular WhatsApp group. I'm sharing a link right away. Kindly use that link to join that WhatsApp. Kindly use that link, join that WhatsApp, and everything will be well. I'm sharing the link on the chat section. I've already shared. So if you click on that link, it takes you to that WhatsApp. It takes you to that WhatsApp. I can see people have started joining. Already 3 people have joined. So I will not proceed from there. I'll stop at that point. Kindly go and do those activities and follow instruction. If you don't follow instructions, you come saying that I ticked you absent, which I did not. So I have no control over the attendance. So don't write me a message and tell me you ticked me absent and I was in class. No, it is you who did not do the activities that you are supposed to do. Because if you do those activities, then the attendance will respond by marking you present. So if there is no question, I'll stop at that point unless if there is no question, I'll stop at that point until we meet next week. So I am ending my class right away.